In today's video, you'll learn when and how you're gonna. In today's episode, you'll learn the when and the how you're gonna get the return on investment when integrating artificial intelligence into your business operations. We look into why AI adoption rates and perception of ROI is actually low. We also discuss how to measure and achieve ROI with your AI programs and expected timelines. Let's accelerate your business. Welcome to the AI Accelerator for Business show, where you get the latest strategies, tactics, and information about the business benefits of artificial intelligence. My name is Carl Ye, and I'm joined by my co-host Jeff Bradshaw. And today we're going to be talking about the return of investment in AI adoption. So we've actually did a show on how much we should actually invest in AI, but obviously after you've done investing, the big question is, when will I see, especially for businesses, when will I see that return on investment?
And Carl, you know what, again, we could talk about the how much to invest, but absolutely, I mean, ROI is everything. I mean, understanding ROI of your AI investments is crucial for businesses to make informed decisions, to optimize operations, and to maintain a competitive edge in your respective industry.
You know, to start this conversation off, there's a couple of stats I was doing when I was researching the show, and I wanted to showcase a couple of them. So the first one was, despite the hype, only 6.1% of US companies currently use AI in their production process. This is from research from Goldman Sachs. US companies, this was in December 15th, 2024, so pretty recent, indicating a cautious approach to AI integration. So I think this marries or very parallels what we're finding when we go out and do our discovery and we actually talk to businesses and try to separate that hype versus what people are actually doing. And we're hearing a kind of very similar story.
You know what? I mean, we do see it. And I think that it's because it's so new, it's challenging for people because it's new and it can get technical. And I think that the key thing that we always talk to people about is that, you know, rather than betting the bank on AI, make some small investments, do some pilot projects, find those little areas where you can start to see the return on investment and making sure the investment isn't enormous. And once you start to see it, then you can kind of build off of it.
And I think obviously the stat here is to produce their products or services. I'm not sure how many people are necessarily using it as part of their operations. Maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower, I'm not sure. But what we keep hearing is there's pockets of people who are using AI, but there isn't an actual business, comprehensive business strategy so the entire business can benefit. Rather, it's just people trying to get their work done using AI.
And again, we see this, we go into our meetings, Carl, and we talk to companies and you say, who uses AI? And everybody generally puts up their hand and you say, you know, are you familiar with the advanced voice mode in ChatGPT? And hardly anybody puts their hands up. So people are using it for the most basic applications because, again, everybody, we live and breathe this stuff every day. Not everybody has the time to do it. And again, I think it can get confusing. You and I always talk about this. Your knowledge level is light years ahead of most people. So I think some people kind of get fearful of it. Or what people do is they will try one little thing and go, oh, that didn't work. And then they go back to their old way of doing it. So it's got to be a commitment from organizations. You've got to commit to it in order to see that return on investment.
Well, another stat here, which I thought was really interesting too, it's revealed that less than half, so 47% of IT leaders reported profitability from their AI projects in 2024, with 14% experiencing losses, highlighting the challenges of realizing immediate returns. So my initial comment for this, and we've talked about IT before, so two things I want to point out. One is we're always fearful that AI would just get reflected or punted by executives or business leaders to IT, and then it would just become another tech project. I think also the second thing is maybe people's expectations based on that and maybe the hype plus their expectations and plus deploying it like traditional tech software is impacting the actual return on investment.
It is, because I think that, you know, when we go in and talk to groups, a lot of the times the questions we get is, well, can it replace this entire process? Can it do all of my sales for me and increase revenue by 20%? Or can it do these massive tasks? And we talk about the fact that AI today safely we can say, confidently we can say, can improve your efficiencies by 10 to 40%. 10 to 40% improvement on your repetitive tasks isn't very exciting. It's not that big fix the major problems, but what it is that it's 10 to 40% efficiency that's going to save on the bottom line. It's going to free people's time up so that they can start to think about and spend time on the bigger tasks. So I think that, it's people want that, knock it out of the park as opposed to, hitting base runs to score points.
It's the boring and mundane stuff that AI is really good at. It's reliable and you can scale across your company. But maybe people have bought into some of that hype that we keep hearing about, where AI could do this, replace this entire industry, do these amazing things. Like, sure, it can do that for one instance and maybe 50% of the time. But for any sane business leader, they need something that can scale. They need something that can be repeatable and reliable 99% of the time. So the expectation, I think, is a little different than what it can be delivered, but maybe people are looking at the wrong things, whether it's AI automations, what their expectations of that are, and expectations of what a digital assistant or an AI chatbot is. Well, an AI chatbot isn't supposed to replace a whole swath of people like some companies would lead you to believe, but it's supposed to free up that 70 to 80% where the questions are repetitive over and over and over again. You don't want it to actually respond to complex questions because it might get confused and it'll hallucinate. And if it's not trained properly, start going off the rails for questions or comments that aren't related to the topic. So if you think about it like that, where it can replace just the most repetitive stuff, then yeah, that would definitely, I can see automations and just digital assistants, just those two, replace mundane, boring stuff at the very minimum 10 to 40%. But maybe people's expectations of those two things are going way beyond.
We were in a meeting a couple of weeks ago and we had a gentleman mention that, when we talked about the repetitive tasks, data-driven predictive tasks, he looked over at his partner and said, well, we have 800,000 non-billable hours every year in our company. So do the math if we can replace 20% of that, 10% of that. Do the math on 10% of 800,000 non-billable hours. If you could replace that with AI, that's a massive cost savings, and that is a gigantic return on investment. But again, it's not the real exciting task. It's not going to completely... that's where you get, I think, the hype. I think a lot of people, there's so much hype out there that AI is the end all be all and it's going to solve all the world's problems. And so when you come in and people start to use it, they're like, well, it wasn't that exciting. It just replaced these tasks. It's like, well, yes, but that's where you're going to get your return on the investment.
I think that leads to the next piece here where I wanted to share is the expectation of, there's the business expectation and then there's the employee expectation. So this one is a Pew Research Center survey found that 17% of US workers use AI tools in their jobs, reflecting a significant gap between actual corporate AI investments and employee adoption. And we're on this so much because we've seen so many companies buy a Microsoft Copilot, buy some sort of tool. We've actually heard from clients be like, hey, we want to buy this tool. It's like, well, you don't even know if the problem that you're looking to solve is the number one problem in your business that AI could solve. But you just went out and went tool first rather than, hey, wait a minute, AI can do a lot of different things. Let's have a conversation with all our business, all our employees, and maybe do a little bit of discovery before we go out and start purchasing these tools.
And I think, let's face it, I mean, we do our discovery and strategy process with a lot of clients, and what comes out of those are AI-driven tasks that could be solved using free tools that are out there right now. You could potentially use the free version of ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever it might be to solve some of these tasks, but if you don't go through the process of identifying what those opportunities are, then you might get caught up with a great sales pitch from somebody coming into your boardroom and investing a bunch of money in something that is all hype and not the basics of how AI can be implemented.
So when we look at this stat, 17% of US workers use AI tools in their jobs. It kind of goes back to your comment about like, we're so in this bubble in space every day that I'm thinking, wait a minute, everybody should be using this. But whenever we go to prospect meetings, even though there are people using it, most people we hear about, it's like, yeah, I use it a couple times, not very, just to create a couple things, helps me with this. So they obviously aren't using as its full reflection. And this stat alone says, you know, only 17% use AI tools in their jobs, which means one, the companies providing the tools aren't giving enough training, the businesses aren't providing the training, or the employees aren't seeing the benefits and then just stop using, a la Microsoft Copilot, when you only have 20-30% max of the company specifically using the tool. And I know we bash Copilot a lot, but I also think, hey, there are use cases for it. It's just your whole company doesn't need to have it. It's only a very select few. And with those select few, you should provide some training so they can really use it and maybe find the people who would actually use it the most rather than just trying to give it to a bunch of people.
Totally. And I think that, again, you talk return on investment, and I, this is a bit of a plug for us, but I mean, if we go through the discovery and the strategy stage with clients, we've seen it where, again, and I just mentioned that they could take the strategy, once we identify the opportunities, a lot of the things we recommend could be resolved with minimal investment. There's processes, there's tools out there that you can use that we highlight all the time that companies could use right away. And again, they then get into that, that mindset of using AI, because we talk about the gap all the time, right? The gap that's growing between those who use AI on a regular basis, guys like you and I, and those that use it infrequently or never at all. And the gap is widening because the technology is moving so quickly. So we always say to clients, we've turned clients away and said, don't invest that money because the technology is going to improve and you're going to be better off in 6 months, potentially 12 months to be able to do that. Let's focus on the things now that you can make sure you get that return on investment for. Because let's face it, we know that if people are blowing money on a new technology and they're not able to see that return on investment within a short period of time, they're just going to give up on it. And that's the last thing we want people doing. We keep educating people saying, get up to speed on it, learn how to use it properly so that you do see the return on investment, so that as it develops, you're going to be more confident in putting money towards these new opportunities.
I think so. The big question that I know a lot of businesses is asking is, when can I see my return on investment? The argument I would say is, if you actually did the discovery process, right, and understand all the problems or the processes and workflows that you have, and then based on that, come up with potential AI solutions and even non-AI solutions, you will see your return on investment, I would say, within the first month at the latest. Like, if imagine of all the processes, a simple one where you have to recreate documents over and over and over again, or a simple one, an RFP, your business does a lot of creates a lot of RFPs, RFQs. Imagine if you create a simple custom GPT, maybe create a project in Claude, or even a Microsoft Copilot agent trained on examples of past RFPs. Just that alone, instead of you taking a week, 2 weeks, you now save yourself a day or two. And how much building did you really need to do with that? Not very much, right? Imagine the hours you would have saved. Like, we can calculate 8 hours a day. If you take 40 hours to build out your RFP, now you're taking what, 5-6 hours tops? Let's say 5 hours. So 35 hours saved every single time. That is direct ROI.
Well, and you know what? And again, we had a client that recently shared with us the sharpen your saw analogy. And that applies so much when you talked about the return on investment. The whole sharpen your saw is, there's two lumberjacks. They go out, they're chopping wood. The one lumberjack, the old guy, every day takes 15 minutes to sharpen his saw. And after a week or two, he's outperforming the other guy by 15, 20, 25% because he's spending an extra 15 minutes a day to sharpen his saw. And I think that's what companies have to do with AI technology, is that you need to make that commitment and you need to work at it and you need to educate yourself and start to implement these little applications. And then you're going to see that return on investment a lot quicker than just expecting a quick fix, some kind of a tool you can buy that's going to solve all your problems.
A couple of thought-provoking questions for you, and specifically ROI in your business. So what are some specific challenges, if you've implemented AI already or in the process of, what are some of the challenges you faced in achieving that return on investment that you've maybe expected, and what are your plans to address them? And then how do you measure the success of AI initiatives in your company, and what metrics are most indicative of that return on investment? Let us know in the comment section below. Learn more about implementing AI in your business by watching these videos here. Enjoy today's episode? Want to learn how AI can impact your business? Then please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.